Good evening, councillors and members in the public gallery. I will officially open this evening's ordinary council meeting at 7 p.m. Thank you for your attendance tonight. I'd like to remind everyone in the chambers to ensure that comments are respectful to the council and all meeting attendees, including city officers and those in our public gallery. Please note this meeting is being live streamed. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Item 3 is announcements from the presiding member, and there is none. Item 4 is attendance, and all councillors are present in the chamber this evening. Applications for leave of absence. Would any councillor like to apply for a leave of absence? No? Item 5 is disclosures of interest. Councillors, do you have any interest to disclose? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. With regards to item 10.3.1, Stone Street and Garrett Road intersection upgrade, my kids attend the Maylands Peninsula Primary School. It's an impartial, I will stay in the room. I'm mentioning it because it was referred to in the report and by some of the deputies.
Thank you. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 2 declarations this evening. One on item 10.1.1, Annual Budget 2026-27. It's an impartial interest. I'm a member of a number of community groups mentioned in the budget. As it is impartial, I'll stay in the room. And item 10.1.3, the Rise Cafe. It's an impartial interest. I provided a deputation as a private citizen prior to election on item 10.1.2 at the 1st of July 2025 Ordinary Council meeting. As it is impartial, I'll stay in the room.
Councillor Latta.
Thank you. Just on 10.1.1, I'm also a member of some of the community groups mentioned in the budget. It's impartial and I'll stay in the room.
Anyone else? No? Okay, so we'll now move on to public question time. So, councillors, the city has received questions in writing from 7 members of the public this evening. The questions and responses are listed in your run sheet, and I will take those as read. The questions and responses are also available on the city's website and will be provided in the minutes for this meeting. Members of the gallery, I'll first call for questions on items on this evening's agenda, and then I will open to questions on items not on the agenda. Please provide your name and suburb before you ask your question, and keep in mind that you are limited to 3 questions. So would anyone like to come forward with a question on an item on this evening's agenda?
Hi, I'm Claire Duxbury from Stone Street, Bayswater, and my question is on 10.3.1, which is the signalisation question. The first question I'm going to ask is, does council still consider left in, left out from Stone Street to Garrett Road with a minor change to the 41 bus, which is a community service and would use the Garrett and Waterway roundabout to still be a viable option?
Thank you for your question. I'll refer to the Director to respond.
Through the Chair, so left in, left out at Stone Street and Garrett. Mm-hmm. Yep. So issue with providing that that treatment there is that you basically remove the right turn in and out of Stone Street, which then creates an issue of redistribution of traffic to other intersections and other roads and through the local road network to find another way to get back onto Garrett Road if someone wants to head south on Garrett Road. And I didn't quite catch the other roundabout.
Oh, it's the Garrett Road Waterway roundabout, which is the very first roundabout just after Garrett Road Bridge. It's not the one further up on Resolution where the horse is, it's the very first one at the Craig Care Seniors Centre. So that'll be the first one that the bus would have to go around, which is a large roundabout. So the bus could go around that, then easily turn left back up to Stone Street. And it would also satisfy those people going to the river and likewise.
Yeah, through the Chair, that is a long distance for the buses to travel. that's going into the city of Belmont side, on the southern side of the river. That is a long distance. And
1 minute. 1 minute.
For a bus, it's probably a long way. It's difficult for me to answer what the PTA would say to that. It's probably something that needs to be referred to them, whether they'd be interested in that. But it still doesn't resolve the right turnout issue where, you know, normally if you've got a left in, left out, they're going to have to turn left and head northwards on Garrett Road from Stone Street. But the proposal you put forward does address going into Stone Street. It's just got to travel a further distance across the bridge to the southern side of the river and do a U-turn basically at that roundabout and head back up and then do a left in to Stone Street. So that can work, but it is a longer distance to travel.
Right, okay. Question 2. Does the right turn time of day ban during peak periods for right turning traffic from Stone Street to Garrett mean verge cutbacks or any alteration to the intersection apart from signage, line marking and a camera for non-compliance?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, probably the main component of that type of treatment would be a sign, would be a large sign, and that sign will need to be located somewhere on the verge for motorists to be able to see that and have enough warning that is coming up ahead. In terms of line marking, I'm not entirely sure what sort of line marking would need to go in place with a sign like that. I'd envisage there probably wouldn't be much line marking required, but that's something that designers would have to look at and determine. Yeah, so.
Does it mean verge cutback? Does it mean a change to the intersection?
The road network, the actual geometry of the road probably could stay the same. The issue being is probably the size of the sign and where that gets located on a verge somewhere along that way. And we'll probably need more than one sign, I'd say. But again, that's up to designers to determine where those signs go.
Okay. And question 3, has council continued to contact Google Maps and the like regarding the fastest route to prevent rat running through residential streets, especially from Guildford Road and the Peninsula area?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, we have contacted Google in the past. We haven't contacted them recently, but in the past we have tried to contact them with, but unfortunately we've had no responses and no changes there. I do believe there are probably settings on Google Maps itself where you can adjust what type of route is selected, whether it's the shortest route or the safest or the most fuel efficient route, and it can change those directions, but I think the default setting is normally on the fastest route.
Yeah, the fastest route comes up a lot. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward.
G'day, Matt Duxbury. I have 3 questions. The survey results, I think, are flawed as the outcome was predetermined by location of the impact of the respondent. So we could have guessed what their answers were going to be just by where they were located. Can Council explain the statistical survey issues considered in framing the areas to be surveyed and the questions to ensure useful, valid data was gathered?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, I'm not entirely sure how to answer that question. What I can say is that the area that was selected for the survey is an area that is impacted by those changes to those intersections. So we're talking about not just Stone Street, but the left in, left out treatments that are proposed in those other intersections. That area and that survey process was developed with our comms team, who've got a fair bit of experience in terms of what type of survey questions and how it's delivered. And yeah, so it was something that was thought out, had the right people involved. But in terms of any further details, I mean, I'll have to take that on notice and provide further information later on.
Question 2. There's quite a consistent view by the Stone Street residents that there is potentially 30 to 50% rat runners and out of precinct traffic coming down Stone Street. In the initial submission, the officer said that there could be some increase in that traffic because of the street lights. So my question is, some really isn't very useful. The question is, how much is it likely to increase? And how would you know how much it was going to increase by?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the director. I'm not sure if you can answer that accurately either.
Yeah, through the chair, well, it's difficult for us to model that at this point in time, but we do know that there are treatments that can thwart rat running. So, for example, the LCURS program, Low Cost Urban Road Safety Program. Yes, you've heard that before, but that is a treatment that can be applied to reduce rat running through areas. So if there are issues that continue in terms of rat running, then the way to stop that is to actually make that route slower than the alternatives on the arterial roads.
Question 3. The initial submission relied quite heavily on the 65% reduction in kill serious incident statistic. We pointed out that there weren't any of those in the data set that you'd used, and that it really wasn't a valid basis for taking that approach to the lights. In this submission, that hasn't been repeated, and you've gone for accidents. But in doing so, you've made no causal link between the signalisation and the result of fewer incidents and reduced severity. So can Council explain how it arrived at the implied outcome that the signalisation will reduce incidents and severity?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, what we're trying to deal with at this particular intersection is the overrepresentation of right-angle crashes, so people turning out and turning right, striking vehicles or getting struck by vehicles. So there are a number of different types of treatments that can be employed to deal with that type of crash. It's a well-researched area. We rely on main roads statistics, we rely on main roads information and guidance in terms of these types of treatments, and that's why we're looking at developing the concept and assessing it against the Black Spot program and the criteria in there, and that will determine what the best treatment is and whether it's a viable treatment and whether it's worth pursuing going forwards.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I'll open up to questions on items not on the agenda. Please come forward.
Harry Bazidis, Naranda. Thank you, Madam Mayor. My questions are to do with Watton Reserve proposal. I've tried several avenues to get answers to my questions, and I haven't been able to in the last couple of weeks. I've spoken to 3 councillors and one key staff member, and I couldn't get answers. So I'm hoping I can get answers tonight. I understand that the City of Bayswater will continue to own the playing surface at Watton Reserve should the proposed 2.1 hectares of land be sold to the Pelagri Group for $1. If this is the case going forward, who will pay for the upkeep of this A-grade playing surface if this privately owned development project goes ahead, and what will be the projected annual cost of maintaining this field?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the CEO.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the playing surface will be maintained through agreement between the City and Pelagri, and that detail will be formulated if the City decides to go through with the disposition, which will be considered at next month's council meeting. But the public will still have access to that playing surface there. So those costs will be known if we get to the agreement stage through the disposition.
So does that mean we don't know yet?
No, because we don't know what the cost will be through the agreement. So we don't know what the cost would be for the playing surface going forward.
And we don't know who's going to pay for it, regardless of cost?
No, Pelligra through agreement with the city. So the city currently has maintenance costs associated with
Yes.
Watton Reserve. To get to a higher standard would need to be through agreement, and that will be something that we'll be putting onto Pelligra as part of that. But those details are unknown at this stage. We still need to get to that position through the agreement.
Okay, thank you. So does this mean that while the developer who owns the Perth Glory women's team will be the primary controller, user and financial beneficiary of the soccer facilities, it is possible that the city of Bayswater will maintain this field for them at the cost of the ratepayer?
As the CEO already said, it's yet to be determined.
So it's possible. That's my question. Is that possible? That we here pay for it?
I'll go to the CEO.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is still through agreement, but as we do those agreements, we would not be negotiating where there would be additional costs incurred by the city for that. As I stated before, the city has got ongoing operating costs for the maintenance of Watton Reserve. We would not be negotiating as part of that additional costs would come on top of the city with that user agreement with Pelligra.
Okay, thank you. Should the Pelligri Group own the divested land at Watton Reserve, I take it that they would naturally own the dwellings that will be built on that land. If so, would they also own the club rooms and sporting facilities which will be built beneath one block of their housing units on their land?
I'll go to the CEO.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, those details aren't known yet in relation to that ownership. That ownership could be through the agreement that they reach with the current users of the facility. So that detail of the proposal is not known as yet.
I'm just referring to the ownership, in that they're getting this land, 2.1 hectares for $1. They're building their dwellings underneath from the fact sheet that I saw. The club rooms will be underneath that. I'm just asking who's going to own those club rooms, and surely that important detail should have been worked out before we're going to give them land.
So through you, Madam Mayor, the ownership of the buildings there will be Pelligra, so the units and that.
Yes.
They receive titles, they would then own that. But I can't answer in terms of the clubroom facilities because we are not aware of what the agreement will be between the existing users and whether that would be a complete ownership or what type of arrangements would be there. But the clubrooms associated with Perth Glory Women's would be owned by Pelligra.
Okay. Madam Mayor, can I ask 3 more questions?
Can I first see if there's anyone else in the audience that have questions?
Sure, of course, thank you.
You're always welcome to put them in writing as well, and they will be minuted and put into the agenda. So I'll ask you to sit down and I'll see if there are any other questions. Anyone else have any other questions?
I was going to ask, but he can ask my 3 questions.
Can you please, I'm asking if there's other people. I believe there is another gentleman that has questions.
Could I ask about an answer?
You can come to the mic, please.
I've actually wrote in on the
Oh, go ahead. Yes, you can. Just state your name and suburb.
Kurt and on Stone Street, Bayswater. I was just asking about Queen Street being changed as the right turn, but it's written here about traffic lights, but I was just talking about relocating the right turn from Stone Street because Stone Street has a visual issue as you stop at the stop sign and looking down, the road turns back inwards and there's 3 sets of power poles that actually are the cause of the issue of the right turn accidents because it blocks the path and you only see the cars once they're about 100 metres and at 60 k's an hour. That's where your accidents are. I'm on the spot most of the time and that's why they're side accidents halfway across because you don't see the car until it's there and it's 60. And that's because you're looking, it's coming from around a bend, as well as you've got the obstruction, and that's your main issue of the visual side of things, why people are having the accidents. And I've spoken to over 20 people on that accidents over many years, and it's all they say is that they didn't see the car because you don't see it until, and if you ever get somebody to see the site thing, the first power pole really blocks it, and then the next one's positioned out.
So have they misunderstood the question that you wrote in?
For that one there was the, yeah, I wanted to see if you have a right turn out of Queen Street instead of Stone Street, because you're looking down the street, it'll be easier to turn right versus not putting traffic lights, how they answered it.
So I'll go to the director to respond.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I understand what you're saying now, in terms of not having a signalised, but actually having a right turn out of Queen Street. Yeah, it still is closer to Guildford Road, so I'm sure main roads would probably not support. We could ask them, but I'm sure they won't support it. I mean, that was actually, there's an island in there at the moment. That was put in there for a reason because of its proximity with Guildford Road. It's something we can look at, but at the same time, even with Stone Street, if there's poles and other things in the way, that we could also look at that as part of the design process to see whether they can be engineered out of the
I'm not sure when the
intersection.
island came on, was put in versus the traffic. It's now at over the years since, if that needs to be re-looked at. And if that's a distribution road or anything like that, but it'll be safer just on that one aspect of looking down the road because it's got a longer distance with no curve inwards. That was the one part here. And if there is traffic lights getting put in, turning left into Stone, if you have a green light and people doing 60 k's an hour, the way that corner bend is, I think it was 60 degrees. It's people accelerate as they turn. They're turning, so the car is already not turned in yet, and they accelerate. And there's no footpath further than 107, which is 2 houses up or 3 houses up. And what happens is there's a driveway, which is at 109, which is about 10 meters from the corner blind spot. And people assume that's where they come over with their bicycles, their kids and so on, because it's got the hump without a high, high whatever edge. So people use that. So people are coming right down to the corner to cross to go to the river, because that's the only way down there. And that blind spot is, it's bad for cars coming around the corner because they're always accelerating and whatnot. So I'm worried when you put the traffic lights there, the sense of safety, that because people have a sense of safety when they see traffic lights, they have that idea that it's green, it's mine. But driving straight, and then the people with the red light, if there is one left, if they don't understand it's a red light, and they just see the green light going straight.
So your
And they do
question.
that.
So the question is whether.
I don't know how to put the question, but I'm concerned that adding that would have an extra
So
issue
has
there.
the.
And
So the question is whether the city has considered those cycling pedestrian safety concerns.
yeah, and putting the footpath access further back from
Okay.
that blind spot, because everybody uses that driveway as an entry point onto a footpath, because it's the only point that's low enough to ride a bicycle or kids' scooters and all that sort of stuff.
I'll go to the director to respond.
Through the chair, I mean, when the intersection is designed, so all those aspects will be taken into consideration. There are guidelines and standards that we apply when we do design work of this nature, so that will all come into consideration. But the information you've provided is also useful, so we always look for lived experience as well, because people experience things and see things that sometimes the design and the guidelines and the standards don't actually pick up. So the information you've provided there, we'll take that on board as part of the
Yeah,
process.
that's important information. All right. Thanks. Oh, and and the other part was just on about drag strip. Once you put a set of lights there, you've got 4 ways of 200 meters of just drag strip, and that will create acceleration, which is if you're 50 meters away and you think, oh, I'm going to cross, but people take off, and the perception of I can go, and their takeoff speed is could have safety issues which can cause different problems.
So has the city considered those issues?
I don't know how to word it, but yeah, that's my concerns.
I'll just go the director.
Through the chair, we'll consider that as part of the design process as
Yeah,
well.
because once you put traffic lights, people take off, and that's 4 different ways of congestion coming, like each way. And okay, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
So it's got to do with the bus route changing and...
Oh, sorry, if you could just state your name and suburb.
Peter Bior from Frinton Street.
Thank you.
So if the traffic lights do go in, is there a possibility that Frinton will be turned into a cul-de-sac?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, we haven't decided in terms of what that intersection will exactly look like. We've got to go through the concept design process and take in all the comments that have been received from the community, but there's a possibility that it could stay left in, left out under the traffic signal arrangement, or it could actually be an open through that you can drive through from Stone through to Frinton and vice versa. But that will be worked through as part of the concept design.
Sure. My concern is the bus route would then continue straight down Frinton into Stone. It's quite a bit of a hill at present. When it turns into Crowther, the bus slows right down. If it was to continue down that hill, it's going to hit 50, possibly exceed it, going straight past the children's playground. My house backs onto that playground and my balcony overlooks it, and there's a right-of-way that children quite often just ride their bikes straight across Frinton Street. The extra traffic that goes through with rat running, there's obviously the lot of money that was spent on Leake Street, turning into a bike-friendly zone. The increased traffic that is going to, if there's a right-hand turn from Garrett into Frinton, the extra traffic that's going to go through there to avoid the Guildford Road right, which gets backed up, it's going to increase the traffic down Frinton tenfold. Now, that's going straight past a children's playground that's used every afternoon by young kids.
So can I just find out, it's public question time, so you just need to have a question.
So has the bus route been considered with the playground and the bus speeds in mind?
Thank you. I'll go to the director to respond.
Yeah, through the chair, I mean, our primary objective is to resolve the issues of the right turn and the accidents that are occurring with that. But having said that, the design process will look at all the other aspects, including public transport and how that operates in the area. We are going to take the feedback on board. We did have comments come in through the public consultation period with the same issues about public transport and the increased traffic on Frinton that could eventuate through this work. All that is going to be taken on board, and if council approves going forward with the concept design, that will all be incorporated as part of that design process.
Just one other question. Just with the slip lane that could be possibly added to Frinton Street for the left turn, that impacts 3 driveways. I believe main roads are quite against having slip lanes with residential driveways that back into them. During peak times, it's going to be impossible. There's 6 houses in that block that will find it very difficult to reverse into that street. Is it okay to put a slip lane where there's that many residential driveways?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the director.
Yeah, through the chair, again, that's a design consideration that will be looked at. Particularly on Frinton side, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a through access. It could potentially still be a left in, left out under the signalised option. But that is something that we'll look at as part of the design process to make sure that all the driveways that currently access there, they still have safe access and they still meet the guidelines and standards.
So it might be no right turn from Garrett to Frinton?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, Mr. Bazidis, do you want to come forward?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to ask at least 2 of my questions here, because I don't know what form this sale is going to take. Because because my questions are based on that. Are the club rooms going to be a strata title given back to the City of Bayswater? Is it going to be a green title where I don't know where to go with these questions, because the very sale of this property hasn't even been determined, and we're going to give a developer 2.1 hectares and no one can tell me what form this sale is going to take. So what do I do with my questions here?
It's up to you, Mr. Bozidis. It's up to you. You can either ask your question, but I will ask you. I've already exceeded the question time.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to ask them, please go ahead and ask them.
Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Otherwise,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'll give it my best shot. Would the developer then have legal and therefore total control of these facilities?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the CEO.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think to clarify, is Mr. Bozidis talking about club rooms which would potentially be
Yes.
the current users, as in Morley Windmills, or
Yes.
club rooms as in?
Oh, no, sorry, the new club rooms that will be built under the block of dwellings.
Yeah, for Morley Windmills
Well,
Or for Perth Glory.
or for Perth Glory?
well, I presume that they're going to be sharing the facilities. Is that right? I'm just looking at the conceptual diagrams in the fact sheet. That's what I'm referring to. And I noticed that the facilities were built underneath the dwellings. So that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah. So through you, Madam Mayor, the conceptual drawings are simply that, just conceptual drawings. So, but if we talk about the current users, then the current users, through agreement, will need to negotiate that with Perth Glory. Otherwise, the agreement doesn't go ahead. And it is to the satisfaction of the current users. So that would need to occur.
Okay. All right, I'll just skip that. All right, if the developer has primary use and therefore control of this complex, is it possible that the Morley Windmills would become a displaced community sporting group while the city, as owners of the playing surface, continue to pay for its upkeep? I'm worried about Morley Windmills.
Thank you for your question.
I'm just trying to clarify.
Morley Windmills are in discussions with the city and Pelligra Group, and those discussions are ongoing. There's nothing solid for us to give you in terms of any agreement that Morley Windmills has come to with Pelligra Group at this stage. The initial discussions were released 3 to 4 weeks ago. This is a very long process, and we're at the very early stages.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Madam
Thank
Mayor.
you. Are there any other questions? If not, I'll close public question time. We'll move on to item 7, which is confirmation of minutes. Can I have a mover and seconder to confirm the minutes of the ordinary council meeting of the 23rd of June 2026 as set out in the addendum issued in the supplementary information agenda? Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor McDonald. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Item 8 is presentations. Councillors, does anyone have a petition to table? No? There are no presentations, and deputations were heard at last week's agenda briefing forum. Delegates' reports, we have 3 this evening. First is item 8.4.1, Councillor Loiacono, Wildguard Training Module 4 meeting procedures. Would you like to move this? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pittaway, Councillor Loiacono, anything? Councillor Pittaway? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Item 8.4.2, Councillor Pittaway, Walga Training Module 4 meeting procedures. Would you like to move this, Councillor Pittaway? Seconded. Councillor McDonald, Councillor Pittaway, anything? Councillor McDonald? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Item 8.4.3, Councillor McDonald, Walga Elected Member Training Essentials. Would you like to move this, Councillor McDonald? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Black. Councillor McDonald, anything? Councillor Black? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Item 9 is method of dealing with agenda business. Councillors, I'll be moving item 10.1.1, annual budget 2026-2027, and I'll now move to the Deputy Mayor, who is pulling first this evening. Nothing? Councillor Latta. Councillor Sutherland.
I just want 10.1.3, the Rise Cafe. And that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Pittaway, Councillor Osazowski, Councillor Loiacono, Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. 10.1.4, expression of interest, 14 King William.
Thank you. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 10.3.1 Stone Street and Garrett Road intersection upgrade.
Great. Okay, so we'll now move to consideration of the reports in section 10. Can I please have a mover and seconder to bring forward item 10.3.1, which was subject to the deputation? Move Councillor Black, seconded Councillor Sutherland. All those in favour? That is unanimous. So item 10.3.1, Stone Street and Garrett Road intersection upgrade, community engagement outcomes. Councillor Black, you've moved this. What are you moving?
I'm moving the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor McDonald, Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd just like to start off by thanking a lot of the community members who have reached out to councillors, including myself, in regards to this item. In particular, I'd like to thank Matt and Claire Duxbury and their 47, which I've now been informed is now 48 members of their WhatsApp group, and in addition to others such as Kate Balker and Matthew Morgan as well. I know that this intersection has a lot of interest from the local group. What this motion is about is moving forward with having a look at some of the physical designs, which I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about, and I think that this stage will help answer some of those questions as well. I just want to reiterate to the community as well that there are further checkpoints with this design as well. This isn't the last thing that we will approve before it potentially gets built. We still are going, as I understand it, coming back to council for a decision on those designs and obviously further funding arrangements as well. So there are additional checkpoints for the community to make comment on those particular designs as well. I just want to note as well that there is potential for further physical traffic treatments as well. I know that the LCURS program is scheduled to go into that area in the Maylands Peninsula soon. But of course, I think if we do find that rat running is still a concern, if we find that we would like to change the behaviour of certain drivers as well, we can always look at further traffic treatments as well through the course of our actions. And I'm sure I'll be one of the first voices to the CEO and to the director in regards to that as well. There's also the Google Maps issue as well, which I'm sure that the city is quite frustrated about. And I hope that our friends at Google are listening to this council meeting this evening, or it gets picked up on some AI tracking for transcripts, that we would like to see some, at least a response or some changes to some of that routing decisions for the sake of the local residents as well. There's also the case around the 41 bus route as well, and I'm sure that through that design decision-making or design concept as well, that bus route will be considered as part of that as well, through consultation with the proper authorities such as the PTA as well. I do support seeing some change at this intersection, because I did stand there for about 45 minutes to an hour with Matt and Claire on the weekend, and we did see witness to a lot of what I would call unsafe driving there. A lot of, as another resident has raised before, about the shallow angle when cars turn in off Garrett Road into Stone Street, they do take it at speed as well, and we saw that, and we bore witness to that. We saw some illegal manoeuvres. It's not meant to be a straight through under its current design, but cars did take it straight through, more than one car in particular, I would say. And we did see some examples of cars using it properly, but and unfortunately some people trying to cross the road. It's not a safe proposition for pedestrians to cross that road and get down to the river. I heard about some residents using kayaks or canoes and it's a difficult place to manoeuvre. So I do think something needs to be done, but I would like to see those designs progress. I would like to see the community consultation and those comments received by the traffic consultant and taken on board with that as well. And what I would like to see is obviously further consultation with council through briefings and through this process as well to make sure that we have a good outcome here. So I am happy to support this. I'm happy to continue listening to residents and the community about their concerns with this intersection and with the traffic light installation. But hopefully we can address some of those concerns that they do have through the design process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? I'll just add that I'm not entirely convinced that this is necessarily the best solution for this intersection, but I am convinced that it is a dangerous intersection and that there are accidents and we need to do what we can to make it safer. I was very interested to hear from the deputation tonight about the obstructions to the visibility there, whether they were power poles that are causing that. And I think there is a lot that can be said about road design itself. So I'd like to see those addressed first before going to a full-blown signalised intersection, but we need to progress this motion to even get to that point, to even review those obstructions. So I'll be supporting this. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Look, I want to briefly explain my reasons why I will support the motion. I do acknowledge the opposing views, especially from nearby residents along Stone Street. I note the comments, the many comments that we received and the research that was done. I also understand the concerns that were raised by quite a lot of residents. That, as we saw, the community consultation was very supportive of traffic lights at that intersection. And I wanted to note that most of the supportive comments actually came from nearby residents who live in Bayswater on both sides of Garrett Road. Because I had something, oh, it's only for people coming from the Maylands Peninsula. That is actually not what we saw in the survey, and I refer residents who haven't seen it, there is an addendum with a breakdown. Most of the supporting comments actually came from probably their neighbours who experienced the safety concerns at that intersection. The fact that Main Roads are supportive of this project to go ahead, I think it shows by itself that there is a problem there. From my experience with Main Roads, they are rarely wanting to add traffic lights to slow traffic if they have acknowledged that that by itself is a proof that there are safety concerns. So I will support this because I think something needs to be done there. The city is advising us again and again, and the addendum also mentions that this is the only viable option ahead. And they explain why other options are not feasible, including a roundabout that will require removing houses on the corner, which is not something I want to see. So I'm happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? If not, I'll go the move to close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think there were some excellent comments in the contributions there from all councillors. I just wanted to reiterate as well that we do need to progress this, and we do need to see if this is the right approach, and the only way we can address some of those concerns in regards to a resumption of land and access to properties and how much space this is going to take is to actually progress with some form of design for us to consider. So I'm very curious to see how those designs come back I'll be looking forward to the further consultation that the city will be taking with council in regard to this, because there is a lot of community interest in this, and hopefully we can work towards a solution that will make this intersection safer for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. So that concludes the items that were subject to deputation, and we'll now move to consideration of the reports in section 10 that have been withdrawn by councillors. The first one is 10.1.1 Annual Budget 2026-2027, and I have pulled that. Councillors, I have provided an alternate, and that has been provided to all councillors. Before I go ahead, I'll see if I have a seconder. Councillor Osazowski, thank you. Okay, so before I say a few words about the budget, I have proposed an amendment. For some time, we have remained committed to a strategy of increasing rates by CPI plus 1%. As the CPI is now lower than when we first advertised our rates back in May, I would like to ensure that we pass these savings onto our ratepayers. This amendment aligns with option 2 outlined in the officer's report to achieve an overall rate increase of 4.95% instead of the 5.9%. Pulling together a budget delivers the services our community expects in a financially responsible way is one of the most complex tasks councillors undertake. Knowing our community is facing cost of living pressures makes it even harder. However, I am confident in approving this budget that councillors are exercising the necessary restraint in these challenging economic times and that this is a financially responsible budget. This budget remains focused on delivering the services people rely on, maintaining the assets people use, and putting the community at the heart of everything we do. It does not cut services. We are sticking to our strategy of aligning rate increases with CPI while putting 1% into reserves to maintain and renew our $1.2 billion worth of assets for our future generations. Improved residential and commercial property owners will see their rates increase by an average of 4.54%. Vacant land owners who have benefited from increasing property prices but have done nothing to contribute to the amenity or vibrancy of the area will pay more. This is a deliberate move to deter land banking and encourage development. This budget will fund the basic assets local governments are responsible for but are often taken for granted. Assets like the club rooms and facilities used by more than 150 local community and sporting clubs. This year, more than $750,000 will be spent on the renewal of sports grounds. This includes replacing the cricket practice nets at Grand Promenade Reserve and wickets at various grounds. Soccer goals will be replaced at Elstead and Frank Drago reserves. The popular vert ramp at the City of Bayswater Skate Park will be resurfaced. Floodlights will be renewed at Lower Hillcrest Reserve and lamps replaced at Lightning Park. Play equipment will also be replaced at 6 parks across the city at a cost of $460,000. This includes Tom Cameron Park and Canimbla Reserve in Morley, Lightning Park in Naranda, the Foreshore Reserve and Ploughman's Park in Maylands, and Browns Lake Reserve in Bedford. This is alongside the $220,000 to be spent on additional furniture, signage, fencing and bins so our community can continue to enjoy their local parks. $10.45 million will be spent on maintaining our more than 190 buildings for the community to use. This includes the city's 3 libraries, the Bayswater and Morley Community Centres, the Rise, Bayswater Waves and Morley Sport and Recreation Centre. $1.1 million will be spent on the extension and upgrade of the city's footpath network to improve connectivity and access to facilities, supporting people to walk and cycle within our community. We also maintain 460 kilometres of local roads to ensure they are safe for users. This budget also funds core services people rely on, including the city's FOGO, recycling and general waste collections, as well as access to bulk bins and mattress and white goods collections. Regular community safety patrols, along with an expanded modern CCTV network that continues to keep our neighbourhoods safe. The city will continue to mow, prune and maintain more than 180 parks, ovals, open spaces and 2 public golf courses. City officers will work with environmental community groups to protect natural areas, plant trees on verges as part of our annual tree planting program, and continue to work on the construction of an urban forest at Riverside Gardens. This budget also funds $2.3 million for trees to be planted on verges and in parks and natural areas across our city. $100,000 will also go towards planting trees on hard-surfaced median strips. This builds on our record tree planting program, which has seen more than 10,000 trees planted over the past 3 years. This significant investment contributes to a greener, cooler city. We know our residents take great pride in the way their local neighbourhoods look. So this budget will fund the work of our new Streetscape Services team, who will deliver a program of pride, helping keep our neighbourhoods looking presentable by mowing verges, fixing footpaths and weeding medians. The city will also continue to operate the Rise, Morley Sport and Recreation Centre, Maylands Waterland and Bayswater Waves. These recreational facilities are highly valued and well used by residents of all ages. This budget will ensure shelves are stocked at Morley, Bayswater and Maylands libraries, and Bayswater and Morley community centres remain a place for older adults to gather. We will assess your planning applications, conduct health inspections and approve your building permits and inspect pool and spa barriers to keep our kids safe. We will control mosquitoes, so well in fact that other local governments are now paying to use our innovative drone service. We will continue to support initiatives to grow local businesses, attract new investment and create more local job opportunities in line with our economic development strategy. And we will continue to advocate for more funding for infrastructure from the state and federal government. On top of the assets we maintain and the services we provide, this budget supports people. It brings people together and puts the community at the heart of everything we do. This budget will enable our community development team to continue to deliver programs and activities that promote social connection, health and wellbeing, education and literacy, and support the vulnerable in our community. It will allow us to continue to take action to make the city more inclusive, encourage older adults to participate in community life, engage with our youth, and continue on our journey towards reconciliation. This budget will also provide $168,500 in grant funding to businesses and environmental, sporting and community groups. These grants will provide accessibility upgrades to community facilities, make our city a better place to live and support events that bring people together. This is in addition to the numerous events the city will host that promote a sense of community. Some time ago, the city implemented rate smoothing, making it easier for people to manage their rates bills by spreading their payments over a weekly, fortnightly or 4-weekly basis. This year, Council went a step further by removing the fees for people paying by rate smoothing. This budget delivers the services people rely on and maintains the assets we use every day. This is a budget that will enable our city to continue to grow, develop and thrive. It is also a budget that brings people together and puts the community at the heart of what we do. As councillors, It is our role to ensure the city is financially sustainable now and into the future. This is how we put the best interests of our community first. This budget is financially responsible. I will be supporting it, and I ask my fellow councillors to do the same. Thank you. Councillor Ossowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe this budget delivers many of the practical improvements that our community has been asking for and maintains the core services and the level of service that the community needs, wants and expects. As the Mayor has already stated, it continues investment in asset renewal, footpaths, community safety initiatives, CCTV, park and environmental improvements, and planning for future infrastructure and works. I am glad to see materiality for reporting purposes amended to $50,000 in LIM 5, and this brings this back in line with previous thresholds for financial scrutiny of variances. What this alternate does is it acknowledges the cost of living pressures in our community, and I believe from looking at our budget documents, from looking at our financial indicators, our ratios, and looking at our benchmarking, that we do have the ability to assist ratepayers this year with a lower rate. Over 90% of rateable properties in the City of Bayswater are residential properties, meaning this lower rate amount will help most of our community. This is a fair and balanced budget, and this alternate, which provides a pathway for lower rates for most ratepayers without compromising services, in my opinion, should be supported by Council.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak on this? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It will not be a surprise to everyone around the table to hear that I am not supportive of what is being proposed in both the budget and the updated long-term financial plan. I have raised my concerns all along the process, including with regard to the original proposed 5.9% rate increase in the officer's recommendation, which is above CPI. The budget is full with great initiatives and actions that I support, but it was my view that we should make the decisions required to reduce any spending that is not high priority, not only for the purpose of reducing the rate increase for this year, but also, and not less important, to minimize the reliance on using our reserves to offset the budget. That should have included, in my view, halting the yearly increase in employee numbers when this budget proposes 3 new FTEs. 1% of the rate's revenue will go towards our reserves. That's great. But at the same time, the budget withdraws from the reserves 3 times more funds than we put in. That's the figure that we should be remembering and should have been minimized, in my view. The budget takes almost $10 million from reserves to offset the overall operating deficit and to fund half of our capital program. It includes many standard asset renewal items like toilet renewals, new air conditioning units, roof repairs, lighting upgrades, painting walls, park furniture, and more. You don't need to be an accountant to realize that by using significant amounts of reserve funds each year, we are gradually depleting our reserves, which is a great concern of mine that I raised in each budget process since I joined this council 9 years ago. This is not sustainable in my view. We will always have those ordinary renewal items around the city, as there will always be a need to replace old assets and infrastructure. If we mainly rely on our reserves to fund these works, the outcome is clear. We won't have much left at some later stage, and our city and our ratepayers will be in big trouble. This is not a one-off issue for this budget only. This is the approach that has been taken in the 10-year long-term financial plan before us tonight. All the next 6 years, as per the plan, assume a significant operating deficit and the use of significant amounts of reserves to balance those deficits. A few years ago, we were able to sell our aged care assets, which helped us to significantly replenish our reserves with many millions of dollars. That was a one-off injection of funds. We won't have something like that ever again in our city. Using debt money for ongoing basic asset renewal capital projects is not responsible and is short-term budgeting, in my view. Debt money should be left aside, and as I expressed in our workshops, I believe that we should use the reserves mainly for unexpected situations or infrastructure failures, emergencies, for special periods where we have to rely on them, like the COVID pandemic that we had, and for projects of high priority that we need to progress with, but we do not have other source of funds. And the revised long-term financial plan demonstrates the concerning trend that our council will be facing. Page 122 from the agenda shows that our current reserves will be depleted by more than 60% in only 7 years' time. Our reserves are now at $70 million level, and in year 7 of the plan, they will reach a low of $26.8 million. The assumption that things will hopefully improve in 7 years' time, and suddenly we will see increase in revenue, there won't be any unexpected projects that will have to be funded and included in the plan over this period, is unrealistic. It is my view, my strong view, that we must plan for the bad days to come, and from my 9 years of experience on council, they always come, especially with the city's aging buildings and infrastructure. It won't be appropriate to leave future councils to address this situation and deal with the big financial challenges that I can see clearly that they will come. The long-term financial plan also assumes that in the next 2 years, the rate increase will be 2% above CPI for each one of those years, and now, as after the amendment, a rate increase of CPI of 2% will also be needed in 3 years' time. This is a very concerning assumption that I also cannot support. On page 36, the officer's report states, and I'm quoting, "While the long-term financial plan has certain limitations, it clearly highlights the need for the city to increase operating income at a faster rate than operating expenditure, and the city relies mainly on rate revenue assumptions to achieve that." I disagree with this conclusion. Making the hard decisions to review our service levels, programs, and planned projects to reduce or remove non-urgent and non-priority spending is the obvious other side of the coin. Assuming high rates increases is not the answer, but living within our means is. But I also accept that I'm in minority on this issue tonight and can only hope that next year we will strive for stronger financial sustainability. I think we better be real and transparent with our communities about our ability to pay for everything that we want to do in our city, acknowledging also the big challenge that we are not getting adequate financial support from the state government as we are located in safe Labour state and federal seats. I'll finish by thanking everyone around the table for the discussions that we had and for the city's administration for the hard work that has been done this year. We have seen further improvements to the budgetary process and documentation, which were very helpful to our decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Sazowski, you...
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. There were some comments made around our reserves and the way that our reserves are being used, and I would disagree with those comments and want to get some clarification, please, through you, perhaps to the Director, on the reserves and how they're being used.
In terms of like operations versus capital?
Yeah,
or...
correct.
Yeah?
Yeah, and the purpose.
And purpose. Okay, I will go to the Director to respond.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The expenditure from reserves is done in accordance with the purpose of each reserve, and that purpose is set by this council. So funds can only be expended in accordance with the purpose that you have set.
And for the reserves, we would usually use those reserves to fund capital works. Is that correct? So renewals, upgrades, new projects, new capital projects. Is that what reserves are used for?
I'll go to the Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the majority of reserves are used for that purpose. They're largely driven by asset management requirements and major capital works.
And then in terms of, you said a majority of the reserves are used for that. So there's obviously a section of the reserves that are used for other things?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, we have several reserves that can support operating expenditure. They're things like long service leave entitlements, and rate smoothing reserves.
Things like triennial revaluations, elections, etc.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, that's the rate smoothing reserve.
Okay, so then for this year's budget, the reserves, the way they're being used, you said a majority is used for capital. What are we looking at? 95%, like 90% is being used for capital?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's in the order of approximately 97% used for capital and 3% operating.
And is this normal practice, roughly these amounts, year on year?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's consistent with Bayswater's previous transfers from reserves.
Cool. The Deputy Mayor mentioned in his speech that over year 2 and 3 that there's going to be some impacts on that, on the reserves. Do you expect that the way we're going to use the reserves over the next 2 to 3 years, those percentages, capital operational, will change much, or will we roughly stay the same?
Through you, Madam Mayor, in the next several years, the pattern will be quite consistent with what we see now. It's when the city will reach an operating surplus in year 6 to year 7 that you will start to see improvement in reserve balances as you are generating more municipal funds.
So what I'm taking away from this is that the reserves, the way they're being used this year, the amount that's being used towards capital, towards operational, is consistent with what we've done in the past and will remain consistent over the years to come. So the way we're using our reserves is as per the purpose that Council has determined.
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Pittaway.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this is a difficult one. Obviously, being a new councillor and been here 9 months. When I stood for election last year, I did make a commitment to advocate for lower rates for the residents of the North Ward and who voted me in. Unfortunately, that outcome tonight is not the one I'd hoped to deliver for them. I was definitely, through the process of the council-led briefings, I was definitely opposed to the original proposed rate of 5.9% and did raise my concerns through those briefings. In my view, that was an increase that was difficult to justify, particularly given where CPI sat over the past financial year, and we based that 5.9 on sort of 1 month in March where it jumped to 4.9. So it is good to see that it has been lowered in this proposed amended motion by the Mayor. So, Madam Mayor, while a 4.95% increase is still higher than I would have liked, and obviously for residents it's more 4.5. It is still a year of the GRV evaluation, so you know it's some people will obviously pay a little bit more for some if their properties have increased, and some may pay less. But overall, it is 4.5 at this stage. So I acknowledge that that it is the level the council believes is necessary. We've all sat around these council-led briefings. It is necessary to fund the operational requirements commitments contained within the long-term financial plan and the Forward Capital Works program, as outlined by councillors and Mayor here tonight. And you know, when we look, I run a business. You know, I'm afraid when the insurance comes up every year because I know that those costs don't ever get lowered really. You know, they only go up, and obviously we've had those increases here at council, obviously with utilities, and obviously we've had a 4.5% increase for the full-time employees at the city as well. So that's made a big jump to the budget as well. But over the past 9 months as new councillor, I have gained a much better experience or understanding of where I believe this council needs to head in the future. When we begin discussions on next year's budget, I will definitely be taking a much closer look. Not that I wasn't, but I will be taking a much closer look at our expenditure to identify opportunities really to reduce unnecessary costs, particularly with the Forward Capital Works program. Because as you heard tonight, and the Mayor's outlined all the things we are doing, and there is an expectation amongst the community that we do deliver on services, but I find there's a lot of, you know, wants and needs and likes and things that would make things prettier and so forth in the aesthetics of this council. But sometimes I think, you know, given the economic conditions we face, sometimes we just need to pull some of that in and actually have a much closer look at what we actually really need versus what we actually want. So I'll be working on that next year. So
because obviously I feel like we just can't fund every advocacy project that, comes our way, and we've got more tonight with some of the, programs down by the river, and obviously that's being partly funded by the state government and so forth, but there's another $3.4 million to improve those areas. And, we all want to see better, amenities in the community, but they do come at a cost, and I think people need to understand that, especially councillors as well, because that's where, at the end of the day, we're sitting here talking about rates that people are going to have to pay, and we can all justify that it might be an extra $5 a week or whatever, but it still adds to somebody's bills at the end of the day, which are already facing enough financial difficulty as it is. So my commitment will still remain the same as it was when I sought election, and that's to represent the residents and the interests of the residents of the North Ward by advocating for responsible financial management, sustainable budgets, and the very best possible value for every rates dollar that we do spend. But based on that, I will be supporting this lower increase for the rates. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor McDonald?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. While I'll be supporting this amended motion, I am concerned about the long-term financial plan. Rather than an extra 1% rise in 2030, as noted in the report, I'd like to see, echoing Councillor Pittaway's comments, that the council find cost savings of $243,000 per year for the next 3 financial years, rather than assume that we're going to make that 1% rise in the future. Otherwise, it feels like we're kicking it down the road, but I am supporting it. If there was a year for rate relief, this would be it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Loiacono?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, just in relation to reserves, with the director's answers in mind, I'd like to address the comments regarding these reserves. I think there seems to be an implication that drawing on reserves is somehow financially irresponsible, and I just don't agree with that. I think reserves exist for a purpose. They have been established by council over many years and are intended to be used for specific approved purposes. Where this budget proposes to utilise reserve funds, it is doing so for the purpose that we have already endorsed. This is not unplanned or reckless. I think the implementation of decisions that council has already made is why we're using these reserves. Of course, I think we should always monitor the long-term sustainability of our reserves, and I think that it's an important discussion to continue having, but I don't think it's accurate to suggest that we're using reserves not for their intended and approved purposes, and it's somehow poor financial management on the city's behalf. This budget is a council-led process, and it has brought us to this point. So I will find it difficult to reconcile how any councillor around this table can or could disagree with the very budget we all helped shape, whether agreeable or not, that's in front of us. We also need to acknowledge just how difficult this process is. The City of Bayswater is an incredibly diverse local government. Each ward has different priorities, different expectations, different needs. Residents in one part of our city may be advocating for parks, sporting facilities, and others are focused on roads, community safety, environmental initiatives, or local infrastructure. There is no single priority that reflects the views of every resident, and things cost money. If we want low rates, things need to go and services need to drop. With this in mind, I do commend the administration and officers for bringing together a budget that reflects the advocacy of councillors from across the city, balances those competing priorities, and at the same time keeps rate as low as possible. It's no easy task, and I think it's important that we acknowledge the significant amount of work that's gone into achieving this balance, in my opinion. I also think it's important we have an honest conversation about rates. If we generally want to reduce the burden on our ratepayers, then we need to focus on growing our city and its alternative sources of revenue rather than relying almost exclusively on rates to fund the services of our community. This means continuing to support economic development, attracting investment, and finding opportunities to diversify our income. And at the same time, we need to be realistic. Unless there's a willingness to significantly reduce the services, programs, and infrastructure our community values, it's simply not realistic to expect zero or low rate increases year after year. No budget is ever perfect, and no budget will satisfy every individual priority. However, I do believe this budget is balanced, responsible, and reflective of the council-led process. It recognises the diverse needs of our community, maintains essential services, invests in our future, and does so while keeping the rates as low as reasonably possible. And for those reasons, I am pleased to support this budget.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this? Councillor Sutherland?
Yeah. Okay, interesting to hear all the diverse thoughts around the table, and it's great that we're all so different because we obviously represent a very diverse council. Tonight we're considering one of our most important decisions we make each year. This budget determines not only what services we deliver to our community, but also how much we ask our residents and businesses to contribute towards these services. As mentioned, we have a very diverse council, and keeping everyone happy is not easy. I would like to start by acknowledging the significant amount of work that has gone into preparing this budget by the officers, and the preparation of this report has not been easy or simple. There's been countless hours spent on the budget and countless questions answered as well, I'm sure. And the officers have gone above and beyond their roles, so a big thank you to all of you. This budget includes substantial investments back into our community, including capital works, upgrades to roads, footpaths and drainage, building renewals, park improvement, recreation facilities and environmental projects. The Mayor has given a comprehensive list, so I'll shorten that a little bit, as well as core functions such as rubbish collections. The reality is that the cost of delivering these services continues to increase. Recently, we've seen inflation running at levels well above what many of us have been used to. We have seen increases in the staff enterprise agreement, rising insurance premiums, increasing waste collection costs, high utility prices, increased software and contractor costs, and an ageing asset base that requires constant renewal and maintenance. The state government has not made the challenge any easier. Local governments continue to absorb rising costs that are often outside our control, including waste levies, utility costs and other regulatory expenses. At the same time, councils are increasingly being expected to fill gaps and deliver more services without corresponding increases in funding. As we know, without adequate revenue, those services will inevitably deteriorate. However, despite all of that, we also have to realise many residents are not receiving wage increases. They are dealing with rising mortgage repayments, increasing rents, higher power bills, insurance costs and general cost of living. Before they even receive their rates notice, they're already paying increased government charges through the emergency service levy, vehicle registration fees, stamp duty, land tax, utility charges, etc., etc. It is also, I just want to make this comment because it's bugged me all year and people know this, asking residents and businesses to pay more, while many residents who approach the city seeking approval to lop or remove troublesome trees on their own properties are often told no, yet expected to pay higher rates year after year. I just want to make point of the vacant land, and I do get the intent of this because I was a big supporter of this too, but having been through this, it's always an issue with this land at the moment in the last 5 years because of rising building costs and labour shortages. It's not easy to get builders and to get development across the line, especially too in an area like us where we've had a lot of big government infrastructure such Metronet and that, and a lot of builders obviously go to those big projects. I also have concerns that local government, and I've mentioned this earlier, increasingly end up carrying the financial consequences of decisions made by other levels of government. For example, more community housing is now being delivered through organisations that may be exempt from rates. While the community definitely benefits from this, and it is important, the revenue is not collected and it still must be made elsewhere, which ultimately places additional pressure on the broader rate base. So tonight's decision is not straightforward. On one hand, we need to maintain services, invest in infrastructure, ensure the city remains financially sustainable into the future. On the other hand, we must recognise the financial burden that our residents and businesses are under. And finally, I just want to draw everyone's attention, or councillors' attention, to the article that was in The Australian last week, and I thought it was fortuitous because obviously every council around Australia is at this point doing their budget. There was an article that said that the councils, and it's obviously the East, but we would be part of that as well. Councils in the East are lobbying the federal government more than ever for more money, as it's obvious that councils have an important role to provide functions to the community, but need to be resourced adequately, and especially councils like us with ageing assets and buildings, etc. So I thought that was a good way to finish off this. So that's all I've got to say on the budget.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to start by thanking all city officers for their dedication, time and effort in guiding us through the business planning and budgeting process. Whether it is providing answers to our questions, updating countless documents, printing, binding, meeting with us, making revisions after revisions and doing it all while performing other business as usual tasks, it is a Herculean effort. And I want to thank the CEO and the executive and their units and staff throughout this entire budgeting process. We couldn't have done it without you. On the alternate motion presented before us tonight, I do not agree with the reduction to costs on the terms presented as part of this alternate motion. I also believe that the course of action presented to us in Limb 7 within this alternate motion will create a headache for future councils. For those reasons, I cannot support this alternate motion and I foreshadow the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Latta, do you wish to speak?
Thank you. I find this alternative really difficult because this doesn't feel like councillor-led business planning. This is not the long-term financial plan that we discussed, and the implications for future years deeply concern me, and councillors' understanding of how we deal with that shortfall also concerns me. We cannot just reduce costs for the next few years because there is an exponential impact from changing the rate base that we collect this year. I believe we should have had another workshop to discuss this and refine what things we wanted to cut and what things we wanted to include, and to understand properly the implications for the long-term financial plan and to come to an agreement about how we would deal with that. We could have examined these cuts at any point in the process, regardless of CPI, because actually a reduction in CPI didn't equate to a reduction in our costs. We had to cut projects and staff. So for me, actually, this amendment is quite disillusioning, I suppose. I think it makes clear that rate setting is a political question, and I'm no longer convinced that pegging to CPI makes any sense at all. I think we should just decide what rate increase is acceptable to the community and work backwards from that. I think that this is politically expedient but fiscally irresponsible. I think if we do not put the burden from this year onto future years, then we're going to have a structural black hole in our long-term financial plan. And I feel deeply concerned about that. I don't feel like I have been an adequate part of this process to get this alternative. I do, however, think that there are many good things in this budget. My objection is to this process from the last 24 hours. I think we could have arrived at this same place through the business planning process if councillors were so motivated to do so. I do think a good budget delivers cost of living relief though, and I want to emphasise that when everybody is talking about cost of living, we deliver amazing parks, playgrounds, natural areas, libraries, recreation centres, free events, activities, services that support the most vulnerable people in our community. I think that our our budget delivers on all of that. However, this process, I'm not okay with this process. And I think that for me personally, I will be approaching next year's budget very differently now that some of those fundamental assumptions that I had been working on no longer seem to be relevant. I really value the hard work of all of the staff who led us through this business planning process and the honest conversations with councillors in those meetings. I'm pleased to see the removal of fees for rate smoothing because I know a lot of people felt like that was a penalty for not having enough money. And I realise it was to cover administrative costs, but I think that removing it is good for people who might find it difficult to pay their rates all at once. So there are some great projects in here. There are continuation of excellent services, but I don't support having an amendment put forward 24 hours before the budget meeting that I believe undermines the long-term financial plan we agreed on.
Councillor Pittaway, do you have a question?
Well, I was going to make a point of order. Can I do that?
After the debate has finished?
Oh, I don't know if it's finished.
Yes, you can make a point of order.
I just wanted to make a point of order that, obviously, from what Councillor Ladder just said, that we didn't challenge that.
What's the point of order?
Well, that it wasn't. This amended motion was not debated, and I can say that literally at the very last council.
I just need to, for governance purposes, if you're going to call a point of order, you need to see what you're actually calling the point of order on in terms of the standing orders. So it would be either relevance or against council and adverse reflection on council, repetitive, or against the Local Government Act. Is it any of those?
No, not really. It was just a point that the council had made.
We can't debate it.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So everyone's had the opportunity to speak on it. So I'll go to my closing. Let's just be very clear. What Councillor Ladder and Councillor Black are suggesting is to continue with a 5.9% rate increase. There was...
Point of order, because I did not actually say that. It's not accurate.
Is it accurate, Councillor Ladder?
I thought this wasn't debate. I did not say that.
Okay, but that's my understanding from your debate is that you support what was originally on the table presented. That's what my understanding is. So let's just be very clear about that. When we talk about fundamental assumptions across all of our council briefings on the budget have always been, and I have been very clear on this, CPI plus 1%. That's what was discussed as a fundamental assumption when putting together this budget. It wasn't what is, what equals to what we want to have. It's always been CPI plus 1%. And we were told at that stage that CPI was 4.9%. And that is exactly how we arrived at the 5.9, because that's what CPI was. There were a lot of questions in those briefings about whether that number was accurate, and CPI changes is a moving number. So we can only work with the data that we have at that point in time, which is what we had in March, and that's what we went out to advertise with. This year, our budget is done later. It's normally done in June. This year, we find ourselves at the end of July due to the revaluation year. Being at this point, we now have updated data. That updated data shows us that CPI has decreased from what our modelling had suggested it would be. I cannot sit here, and what I have told the ratepayers my entire time on council is that it would be CPI plus 1%, and that's what we discussed. So knowing this updated information, the officers have included that option within the document, which was provided to council 10 days ago, 10 days ago, so more than 24 hours ago. Councillors had this information provided to them. And so with that information, I believe the right thing to do, the fair thing to do, is to pass on that reduction to our ratepayers. Now, we have been able to find ways in which to do that. The officers have provided ways. And the commentary around that this is political, I find that greatly offensive. This is about providing services and facilities for our ratepayers at an affordable and fair cost, not having all these discretionary nice-to-haves, but also being financially sustainable. I have done nothing but, during my time as mayor, focus on being financially sustainable for this city. That has been my number one thing, to turn around what I inherited, and we have done amazingly at that over the last 4 years. Talking about reserves, our reserves at 30 June 2021, our reserve balance was $39.6 million. As of today, it's $63 million. Yes, that increase is because we had a sale of our aged care assets, but what that also shows is we haven't depleted our reserves year on year by using it. We replenish our reserves. Reserves are there for asset maintenance. That's why we have it. Otherwise, buildings age and you need to put away money each year. So when it comes to the end of life, you've got that money available for replacing that asset. That's exactly the purpose of reserves. Our reserves get audited by the Officer of the Auditor General. They're in line with the Local Government Act. There is nothing untoward about our reserves. The purposes of the reserves are for those type of projects. And if we maintain our assets as we should be maintaining them, we're not going to have these unforeseen failures. We're going to be having responsible asset management that didn't exist in the many years prior. We didn't have an asset management plan like we have now. This, I find it very, it's very interesting that there are also 2 South Ward councillors that seem not to agree with this budget, because South Ward, I've done the math, and South Ward gets more funding than any other ward across the city. They're also, we've had a decision of council recently where we're now taking on the management of the Bagup wetlands, which is going to cost ratepayers more money in perpetuity. Where does that money come from? So on one hand, we have councillors that continually want to spend but then don't want to support a budget. This budget is financially...
Sorry, Madam, but that was too much.
Sorry, I'm presiding. Let me...
It's a point of order.
The point of order is what? On what standing order?
Speaking badly against a councillor.
Okay, I withdraw.
Speaking against Southwold councillors
I withdraw that
way,
comment.
I find it very bad.
Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor.
I withdraw the comment. Anyway, what I was saying is that this, in terms of, and in terms of the other points about the long-term financial plan, there were comments about the concerns that in year 4, it would be a plus, an additional percentage. What is being proposed in the foreshadowed motion is to have that additional percentage now instead of year 4. If you have a look at the table on page 37, when it compares the reserve forecast at the 5.9% scenario versus the 4.95% scenario, you'll actually see the reserve balances are better under this scenario. That aside, what happens in the long-term financial plan, that gets reviewed annually. Anything can happen. We could get more grant funding. We can get money from state and federal governments due to election commitments. We can have reduced expenditure. We could have COVID. We could have divestment of some assets. We could have additional revenue from growth in our city. You don't know you don't have a crystal ball to be 100% certain now of what's going to happen in the next 3, 6, 10 years. but we need to plan. But what is certain is if you don't support this and you want to support the foreshadowed motion, you are giving those residents that additional percentage now. So you're still going to have it for 3 years in a row, but you're going to have it now instead of seeing what can be done to prevent that, as Councillor McDonald had a suggestion, over the next few years instead. So I would, with all of that being said, I'm very confident that this is the right decision for our community. This has been a lot of work. It doesn't undermine the fundamental assumptions at all. It strengthens that, being the CPI plus 1%. And I'd like to thank the officers in the city and all of council for your commitment to the process. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Loiacono, Councillor Osazowski, Councillor Pittaway, Councillor McDonald and myself. All those against? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Black. That is carried. We now go to item 10.1.2, Corporate Business Plan, 2026, 27, 2029, 30. No one's pulled this. Can I have a mover and seconder? Move Councillor Black, second and Councillor Pittaway. Councillor Black, anything? Councillor Pittaway? I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Item 10.1.3, the Rise Cafe. Councillor Sutherland, you pulled this one.
Yeah, just to vote again.
Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Latta. Deputy Mayor?
Oh, it's very negligible request, definitely compared to what we're going to discuss at the next item, the $250,000 request to support a different business. Very happy with what the cafe at the Rise has done for that area so far. And maybe not all councillors are aware of the issues that we have been facing in the only park in the town centre of Maylands. I thank them. I know they were quite not as pleased with what's happening with as a result of this item. So I want to support them and show them that we are happy that they are there. And I can see the groups and people that are using that place and the kids running in front of the Rise. So I thank them, and I hope council will support this minor thing, and residents of the city who enjoy going to one of the big recreation hubs in the city. Thank you.
Councillor Latta.
Yeah, I think that this is just being a good landlord and helping a business get established. I hope that the city also looks at all of the other things that we can do to assist with that and with bringing people to the Rise to help activate that space. I think I'm certainly hoping that this cafe succeeds. I think that there's a lot of opportunities at the Rise that I hope they are able to access, including I've discussed before around catering and things like that for events that are being held there, which I think could be a really important source of revenue for them. I hope that this assists them in making a go of it.
Councillor Sutherland, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, I may as well be the Grinch. Okay, I'm voting against this for the following reasons. So while I understand the rationale behind the officer's recommendation, I acknowledge the points that have been made in support of the request. I still find it difficult to support this motion. I do appreciate that the cafe is currently trading at a loss, and I recognise the premises sat vacant for many years, almost 6 years before the tenant took on the lease. The cafe has contributed to activation of the Rise precinct, and there is evidence that increased use of space has helped create a more welcoming environment, and that may have contributed to reducing the antisocial behaviour in the area. I also accept the argument that if the business were to fail and the premises became vacant again, we would receive no income. However, despite these considerations, I still have issues to support this rent relief at a time when the council is also asking residents and businesses to pay high rates. In particular, we're voting tonight voted tonight to increase rates for commercial properties. Many businesses across our city are facing challenging trading conditions, rising costs and concerns about safety, and some do not have the option of asking ratepayers to subsidise their operation when times are tough. One of my concerns is that this business was assessed as financially viable before it was awarded the lease, yet only 7 months later we've been asked to provide more assistance. Businesses everywhere are dealing with the same issues: insurance costs, utility bills, etc., etc. If we approve rent release in this case, it becomes increasingly difficult to explain why similar requests should be refused in the future. Finally, there's no guarantee that this rent relief will actually solve the problem. The report identifies a number of challenges facing the cafe, including limited parking, poor visibility, insufficient customer numbers, etc. There appears to be, in my opinion, a structural challenge associated with this location, and it has been the oldest councillor on here and the most experienced. I have seen these businesses come and go. It's the way the building was built, and simply removing rent relief for 6 months may not address the underlying issues. While I wish the operator every success and knowledge of positive contributions they've made, I'm not convinced that waiving the rent will work in the long run. I know I'm in the minority, but I had to say what I thought. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I speak in support of this motion. I did find it a bit difficult to come to that conclusion, and I've come to it after hearing some of the discussions here tonight as well. I think, noting the history of this area here, I think it's important to give this a crack. And what I want to see from this as an outcome is for them to be successful and to not see them back at council again. And I'm sure they're lovely people, but I would love to not see them in front of a council motion in 6 months' time. What that means for me is ensuring that we don't just provide them the support through this resolution tonight, but the city also provides that support through our officers who specialise in place activation in economic development, but also what ways we could improve the visitation down at the Rise as well. That could be through the use of the amphitheatre space to draw more customers to the cafe. It could be through events down at the library, again, to draw more people down to the cafe, making sure that we utilise that cafe to the best of our potential when we hold events down there, and utilising their catering needs, their catering services as well. I think success for them means success for us with this motion. I believe it's council's duty to support community leaseholders such as this in the category 4 when they do come to council and ask us for support. This is a limited 6-month support. It is asking for an amount that I think we can manage as a one-off time-limited concession, but I think it has to come with ensuring that we provide that support fully through the city. What I don't want to see is to then return to council asking for further assistance. I think that's a failure on the behalf of that area and our continued efforts to try to activate that space, and something that council may need to consider in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Loiacono.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City of Bayswater has just been recognised as one of the top performing local governments for small business growth. Supporting this request is consistent with that reputation and demonstrates the city not only encourages new businesses to invest locally, but is also prepared to provide practical support where it makes sound commercial sense. The commercial outcome is either $0 in rental income from a vacant premise or $0 of rental income for 6 months, while giving a local small business the opportunity to establish itself again and succeed. And that's why I'll be supporting the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Pittaway.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I agree with all the comments around the room, and Councillor Black, I agree with that too. I don't want to see him back, but on the flip side, I'll just make that comment that I hope that they do report back to the city, given this, if this goes through, that they report back to the city as to where they're at, over the 6-month period of no rent being charged from the city, that I hope within the first 3 months they can report back as to what their sort of marketing plans are around attracting more customers and more revenue. So hopefully they can come back and report to us a little bit where they're going and heading with this.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm deeply uncomfortable with a private business receiving rent relief from public funds. It's different when it's a landlord that's offering rent relief and they're doing it out of their own pocket, but we're spending public money. And I'll comment on the next item. But this would be a one-off from my perspective, and it's cheaper than a security guard. And it has improved the area in terms of antisocial behavior. So I hope that the city puts full weight behind marketing and gives them an opportunity. But I think this would be, from everyone's perspective, a once-off.
Anyone else wish to speak on this? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
Thank you, everyone, for the comments. Councillor Iacono, I really liked what you said. I just wanted to note that I do agree with that. I wanted to highlight for those who are not familiar with the background for that corner, because there's a lot of background. That is a very tricky corner to operate from, and all previous businesses that were there were struggled to some extent. It does not mean that they do not want to operate. It does not mean that residents did not enjoy having a cafe there. It just means that it is a very tough corner to operate, because they do rely on the people who come to the Rise, and there is those peak hours where you can see the place full and fully activated, and then there is dead hours. But that is the benefit of having someone there. I have not received almost any concerns actually for community members since they started operating there, because of the activation and the sense of safety that they have provided, or any cafe provided there. I prefer to invest this minor thing in having our rangers free to attend other areas in the city of Bayswater, because we don't have the amount of rangers to address all issues. So see it that way, what we gain, not just because of the coffee that they provide, but what other services and resources we actually free by helping them. I'll just finish by saying that just before I joined the council, there was a different operator there who asked for assistance from that council. They refused, and they stopped operating 6 months after that, and the place was vacant for 6 months, and the impact to that area was substantial. I can tell you that. I had babies at that stage. It was very unfortunate. No one stayed after the rhyme time sessions. No one stayed at the Rise. The park was dormant, and I've seen it on so many occasions since then. So the benefits are big, and I happy to continue to support them, and I agree with Councillor McDonald. I hope that the city will find other ways to support them because of the issues there.
I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Iacono, Councillor Pittaway, Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Black, Councillor McDonald and myself. All those against, Councillor Ostrowski and Councillor Sutherland. That is carried. Next item is 10.1.4, expression of interest lease 14 King William Street. Councillor McDonald, you've pulled this. Are you moving the officer's recommendation?
Yes, I am.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I support the officer's recommendation to endorse Calder Hospitality for negotiations of the old post office. Of the 5 applicants, Calder is the strongest activation, which is something we've all been looking for in a landmark heritage building. I want to address the public concern that I saw online, however, about the $250,000 contribution, because I think it's largely a communication issue for folks that may not have had a commercial lease in the past. A landlord contribution is very normal for something like this, where the landlord is spending public money. However, it would warrant additional scrutiny. In a commercial lease, the tenant will pay everything, including the owner's insurance. This is a very good investment on a key property, mostly with someone else's money. I want to comment on the Deputy Mayor's very briefly comments on the Rise versus this item, because it is relevant. One is a co-contribution to improve a city asset with private funds, and the other is a private business asking for rent relief with public funds. They are not the same, and nor would I support the Calder Group if they ask for rent relief in the future for a property that we own, the city owns. I'm hoping the negotiations include a long-term lease that reduces the rent, the per-year owner contribution, and a clear picture of the $1 million spend that Calder will make, because I'm a bit dubious about that total, and what will be retained by the city should they exit their lease earlier than planned. However, it's rare to find private money willing to invest in a city-owned property. I believe this is a strong application. It achieves the goals that we as a team have wanted to see in the town centre. But should it not work out, it will be a much improved asset. And I support the officer's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot with what Councillor McDonald said, just to say it might look inconsistent that I'm voted against the previous motion and I'm voting for this, but it is normal business, obviously commercial practice to do this. Keeping in mind, this presents us an opportunity to bring a much-loved heritage building back into use while creating greater activity in the Bayswater Town Centre. And I'm really looking forward and hoping for a successful hospitality venue. Firstly, it activates this heritage site. It brings more people, hopefully, to the town centre, improves street activity and vibrancy, and makes better use of a council-owned asset. And the fact that it's getting done up, it's not going to deteriorate like it could do. Secondly, it creates local jobs and supports local businesses, and it also attracts visitors. And I'd like to also bring up the article that was in the paper the other day about people coming to Bayswater for a small business, and especially the hospitality is obviously going through a boom in this area, so that will add to that. Thirdly, just quickly, it also aligns strongly with our strategic objectives of activating activity centres, supporting local businesses and encouraging economic growth. So for those reasons, sounds a bit repetitive, but I'm supporting that, and I think bring it on.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very excited about what's is to come at the old post office here. I think what we need in that town centre is vibrancy. What we need is for more people to be around as well. Some of the comments that Councillor Sutherland mentioned, I think are pertinent in that we do want to have more vibrancy around that area. Councillor McDonald also mentions the contribution that they'll be making to that area, and that level of investment that we'll be seeking as well. I think those are important factors here as well. A lot of people tell me that they would like to see some more stuff happen on King William Street. There is great things on there already with King Som and the cafes in particular as well. But bringing more vibrancy to that area, I think, will be of greater benefit to the city. In particular, makes Bayswater a place to come and a place to be. Some of the things in particular I'm really excited about is just how long they're proposing to be open for each day, turning from a cafe to a bar to a restaurant. Most excitedly, as everyone knows, I've got 2 young kids, a playground in particular. These days I look for a restaurant or a cafe with a playground, and you know, as much as the Bayswater Hotel has a 3-storey play equipment, it might give my wife a little bit of a heart attack each time my daughter tries to climb up into the 2nd level. So something a bit more ground floor would be appropriate, I think, for this facility here. I do note as well that LIM 5 refers to the CEO reporting back to council with the outcome of negotiations and due diligence, and together with a recommendation as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing the outcome of that and that being returned to council for a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Latta.
Yeah, I think this is a really exciting proposal. It's the kind of activation that I think we were seeking. I suppose the sting is the request for contribution from the city, but I agree with what Councillor McDonald said regarding some of that. I think that some of it is making good, which is a landowner's responsibility under a commercial lease. And I will be interested when it comes back to council to see a breakdown of what is making good and what is a upgrade to the facility. Like, I would prefer the city make good and the proponent make the upgrades that they require, but I'm happy for the CEO to undertake some negotiations and come back to us with an option to consider. I do think that knowing their other establishment, having something like that in the Bayswater Town Centre would be truly transformational, something that goes from day to night and creates that kind of presence, and a family-friendly venue that we already know works so well in that area at the Basie Bowls Club, at the Bayswater Hotel. So I think that it caters to our community in a way that we know our community wants, and provides, it certainly checks off the things that I was looking for from this process. So,
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? I'll go to the mover to close.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. My opener was a little more negative than I would have liked. I think it was a hangover from previous items, but I'm very excited about this. I think it's very good financial investment for the city, fixes the asbestos problems and the other issues with the building. Very excited to see it progress, and it will absolutely transform the town centre.
I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. The next item is 10.1.6, voting delegates for the 2026 WALGA AGM. No one's pulled this, but we need to nominate people. So we need 2 delegates and 2 proxies. Who would like to be a delegate? Anyone? Councillor Sutherland and Councillor Latta. Anyone else? Who would like to be a proxy? Councillor Loiacono, and I'll be the second proxy. If we just get that on the screen, then I can put it to the vote. Do I have a mover? Move Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Black. Okay. All those in favour? That is unanimous. The next item is 10.2.1, financial report for the period ended 30 June. No one's pulled this, but absolute majority is required. Can I have a mover and seconder? Move Councillor McDonald, seconded Councillor Sutherland. Councillor McDonald, anything? Councillor Sutherland? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous by those in the room. And then the next one we need to consider is 10.4.1, the Parking Local Law 2026 consent to advertise. Nobody's pulled this. Can I have a mover and seconder? Move Councillor Black, seconded Councillor Loiacono. Councillor Black, anything? Councillor Loiacono? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous by those in the room. And I just need to read out. Councillors and members of the public gallery, I will now read out the purpose and effect of the City of Bayswater Parking Local Law 2026. The purpose of the Parking Local Law 2026 is to provide for the regulation, control and management of parking within the city. The effect of the Parking Local Law 2026 is to control parking throughout the city to ensure the safe, fair and equitable use of parking facilities under the care and control of the city. So councillors will now move to adopt the remaining items in section 10 en bloc. Can I have a mover and seconder? Move Councillor Sutherland, seconded Councillor Loiacono. All those in favour? That is unanimous by those in the room. And we'll now move to notices of motion. 11.1, Councillor Latta, participatory budgeting. You're moving the motion as in the agenda. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Black. Councillor Latta.
thank you. This motion is really just an invitation to explore some options with council, rather than ask the city to prepare a report on one particular way to do participatory budgeting. I thought that it would be helpful if we could have a workshop and a conversation about the different ways that that can look and the different range of budgets associated with it. Participatory budgeting is used quite a lot, particularly at the local government level. And the reason why I am bringing this now is because one of the really clear political trends that we can see actually across the country is disaffection and a sense of not feeling heard and included in the political process. And participatory budgeting is a very concrete way for people to be involved. And it also helps people understand the kind of decisions that we make through a budgeting process, the fact that it is about balancing competing priorities. It provides a transparency over what the budget process looks like. One of the things that I find most frustrating about our budget process is that so much of it occurs behind closed doors and we can't actually talk to the community about the ways in which we arrive at the decisions that we make on budgets. I think that opening up portion of our budget to greater community input enables people to understand the kinds of deliberations that we have and that we make. So it improves transparency, it improves trust in government, which is something that is also very low. It improves engagement. In fact, a lot of studies show that it improves the fairness of the allocation of funds across a budget, and that you actually get more sustainable budgeting outcomes from it. So this doesn't have a cost associated with it because it is literally just asking for us to have further conversation about what it could look like if council was interested in proceeding. Yep.
Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm interested in seeing what the CEO investigates in terms of different implementation options, including that approach, that timing, that resourcing, that cost and other implications. I think it's worthy of at least a workshop through council just to have that discussion, and I support the motion. Thank you.
Anyone wish to speak against this? Anyone wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor Ossizowski.
Thank you. I remember back in 2018, 2019, when participatory budgeting was first being introduced to council, there was workshops with the community, and the community came back with feedback on areas of the budget where they thought the budget should be decreased or maintained or increased. And council then went and adopted its budget, which didn't even align to most of the stuff that the community had asked for in that participatory budgeting process. Council has a greater overview and oversight of budget requirements. Yes, council can consider what the community is asking for, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the community is going to get what they're asking for when you put everything into context. So I think participatory budgeting has the potential to actually disappoint the community and to push them further away from the political process, because they would think that they have the influence and the ability to influence the budget, but then see that the budget doesn't reflect what they wanted in the first place. So I don't feel as though participatory budgeting would work. I also feel as though it is the role of the councillors to be talking to our community anyway, and our community has opportunity all the time to speak to us about things that they would like to see in the budget and the way that the budget is put together. So I think we are already, as councillors, allowing opportunities for the residents to participate in the budget process. And I can certainly give 10 examples from our AGM where ratepayers came along who I was assisting with their AGM motions, and through that process they were able to participate in this budget process. So I will not be supporting this motion tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I think from the gallery I would have supported this prior to being elected. I think now I'm less likely to do so. But when I asked last week why it ended, everyone looked at each other awkwardly and couldn't answer the question. So I'm excited to see a report, and I will be supporting because I'm curious about how we would implement this if we did.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Sutherland.
Okay, deja vu. This motion is asking council to investigate the possibility of reintroducing participatory budgeting, which is a process that gives residents a direct say in how a portion of council budget is spent. Interestingly, this approach was first developed in Brazil. A bit of useless information I found out through doing some study research. Everyone needed to know that. We have been down this path before, and officers have outlined that in the report. The previous work was deferred during COVID and then deferred again while the long-term financial plan was being reviewed. I didn't support the proposal then, and I'm not going to support it now for the same reasons, and I should have kept my notes from then. But this is why I won't be supporting it. Firstly, I believe the city already undertakes extensive community consultation. We regularly seek feedback from residents on various matters such as footpaths, parks, community services, many other projects and initiatives. Community input, in my opinion, is already a significant part of our decision-making process. Secondly, there's additional costs involved in establishing and running this budgeting program at a time when councils are facing increasing financial pressures and rising costs, which we've just gone through with the budget. I don't believe this is the best use of limited resources. And finally, councillors are elected by the community to make decisions on their behalf. Considering budget, setting priorities and allocating resources are fundamental responsibilities of elected members. That's what residents elect us to do, and ultimately we're accountable to those decisions. For those reasons, I can't support those. But I do thank Councillor Latta for bringing it back.
Anyone else wish to speak on this? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, look, this was raised with good intentions, same intentions that led me to support this process when I joined the council, after I joined the council in 2018. But I do agree with the comments against this. We already have some experience with this. I went through the process with those councillors who were here, and it was a failure. I did not learn anything from that process. I do think that those residents, they're not many, there's several, there are a few dozens of residents. I think they enjoyed it, they got the sessions, they sat here. I think they had more sessions than we had during the budget. I remember everyone from the city needed to explain to them what they do. So they may have enjoyed that, but that was a process supposed to support us in our deliberations. And I remember very vividly that everyone in the room actually found it very counterproductive with regards to the outcomes. We had to spend quite a lot of time to see what was decided there and see how that can be in some way incorporated to what we wanted to do with the knowledge that we have. Residents with some sessions here will never have the understanding that we have of the whole scheme of things that we do in the city. We already, and I think new councillors hopefully understand it by now, and that's just the beginning. They will never be able to do that. This is why we are in this position. And I think it is artificial to expect and spend resources hoping that they will tell us what the community need. When I do agree, I think we should know what the community needs. And we have so many plans and strategies, too many, and I mentioned that before, too many. So we have enough community plans with feedback from, I don't feel at any stage, definitely not now, that I'm not aware of what the community needs in different areas and in different areas of the city. And I'm still discovering things with regards to specific clubs and issues, but as themes, and that is what the participatory budgeting touches, themes, I feel we have the material in front of us for those who want to see that. So I think on paper it sounds good. In reality, it did not work when we did it, and I can't see that working well enough to justify the $100,000, especially after everything that I said during the budget item. I will not support something like that.
Thank you. Councillor Pitaway.
Yeah, I won't be supporting it. As fun as AGM of electors is once a year, I just don't really see the point of further opening up and having focus groups around these things, which clearly has a cost to it. And again, what the Deputy Mayor just stated and I stated in my sort of speech on, on the budget, it's not fortuitous to sort of like, spend more money and have these focus groups to talk about what, they would like, when clearly there's open communication amongst all councillors. We've got, my email's on the website, my phone number's on the website. Take a phone call, take an email, listen to residents, not a problem at all. So I don't think we need to have focus groups, which costs time, especially the officers' time, which equals money. And that's exactly the reason I won't be voting for it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? I'll just say a few things. I also was here back in 2018, 2019, along with the Deputy Mayor and a few others around the table, and witnessed this. It started off with between 30 to 40 people, and they agreed that they would attend, multiple weekend sessions. So we had staff here on the weekend, we had an external facilitator. And let me tell you, those numbers of people that started, they dwindled down. And then you didn't have that continuity of people showing up, discussions, it just didn't work. It was a lot of money. And we already have particularly now, a council-led business planning process. We work on it from November, the year before the budget is due. That's how much work, we all know how much work, how much information, pages and pages of information that the city give us for us to go through, and how long that takes. New councillors have been exposed to it, how long it takes to get your head around the workings of this council. And we've just witnessed that we can't get consensus amongst 9 people. So how do you think this is actually benefiting it? We've just adopted a budget. This could potentially cost up to 100,000, if not more. I think it was around 70, 40 to 70 back, almost 8 years ago. So it's not going to be less than that. We just adopted a budget. We don't have the money in that budget for this. So whilst it sounds good, we've been there, done that. It didn't work. There wasn't any benefits. It was more cost than benefit. And so I won't be supporting this. I'll go to the mover to close.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for your comments. I do find it interesting that everybody seems to know what it would look like when we haven't actually had a discussion about what it could look like. And there are so many different models, some of which are focus group models, some of which are electronic and have broad participation. There are so many different ways to do it. Like Vic Park has a pre-budget survey as part of their budget process. It's not necessarily like a full participatory budgeting process, but it is a way to have a check-in with the community about their priorities at the beginning of your budget process. I think that there are a whole range of options, and I'm disappointed that councillors seem to not want to have a conversation. So be it.
I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Latta, Councillor Black and Councillor McDonald. All those against? Councillor Loiacono, Councillor Ossowski, Councillor Pittaway, Councillor Sutherland, Deputy Mayor and myself. That is lost. Item 12, questions from members without notice. No. Item 13 is new business of an urgent nature. There is none this evening. Item 14, meeting closed to the public. So we have one confidential item this evening. Sorry. Can I please have a mover and seconder to close the meeting to the public, as the information contained in the report relates to legal advice or other information over which the local government holds legal professional privilege, and the report also relates to the personal affairs of an individual. This information permits the meeting to be closed under section 5.234A and B of the Local Government Act 1995. Move Councillor McDonald, seconded Councillor Loiacono. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Item 14.2, public reading of resolutions that may be made public. Council has changed its decision on item 10.2.5, considered at the OCM of 1 July 2025, to exclude property 3 from proceeding with the recovery of rates and charges outstanding. I will now close this evening's meeting at 9:16 p.m. Thank you.